The baby finally fell asleep on my chest a little after 2 in the morning. He was 3 weeks old, heavy and warm, like a tiny heater. I was stuck on the couch because the second I tried to stand, he would jerk his whole body, startle himself awake, and scream like I had betrayed him on purpose. The living room smelled like old milk and warm laundry. The only steady sound was the dishwasher humming, as if it was proud to be useful without anyone cheering it on. My hair was twisted into the kind of knot that says I stopped trying to look cute a long time ago. My shirt had a wet patch from leaking milk, which felt like my new identity. My back hurt in a way that made me feel older than I was. My phone lit up on the coffee table with another message from my husband. I did not even have to read it to know the mood. We had been living inside the same fight for weeks. The message said we need to talk tomorrow about this whole situation. I cannot keep feeling ignored. Ignored. Like I was doing it on purpose. Like I was a stranger walking past him again and again. Not like I was a woman who had just carried a baby for 9 months while doctors said words like high risk in calm voices that made my stomach drop. Not like I had spent months worrying about swelling, blood pressure, and every appointment that felt like a warning. I stared at the screen. Heat rose in my chest, that mix of embarrassment and anger. One part of me still wanted to explain myself, like I was applying for his approval. Another part of me wanted to throw the phone into the sink and pretend it did not exist. I did neither. I just sat there, trapped under a sleeping newborn, staring at the glow of my screen like my whole life had shrunk to one couch cushion and one small light. He started complaining about intimacy before I was even cleared after birth. It was not sweet. It was not I miss you. It was sulky and transactional, the kind that makes your skin crawl. He sighed dramatically when I said I was sore. He rolled his eyes when I said I was exhausted. He muttered that other wives manage, like I was failing a basic requirement of marriage. I tried being gentle. I tried being factual. I tried making jokes to keep it from becoming a war. Nothing worked, because the truth was simple and ugly. He wanted what he wanted, when he wanted it. My body could cooperate or get blamed. When we decided to have another baby, he talked like we were adding something cute to our life, like buying a new couch, not creating a whole human being. He said a baby would bring us closer, a phrase that should probably come with a warning sign. Being closer would have required him to show up. Instead, my pregnancy turned into non-stop medical trouble. Our home became a low-level emergency that never stopped humming. I was always managing something, always bracing for the next test, the next appointment, the next call. Some days my heart would race for no reason. I would sit on the edge of the bed, breathing slowly, telling myself I was fine. In the same moment, my husband would ask what we were having for dinner like we lived on different planets. He did those quick check-ins, asking if I was okay with a flat voice, like he was checking a box. If I tried to tell him I was scared, he got uncomfortable and changed the subject, as if my fear was rude. Then the baby came, and I did not bounce back. I did not glow. I did not feel blessed and magical. I felt wrecked. Not in a dramatic movie way. In the boring, humiliating way. Still bleeding. Still sore. Still swollen. Trying to walk like nothing happened. Everyone acting like I should be grateful and quiet because the baby was here. The baby needed me constantly. The older kids needed me constantly. The oldest was 7, then 5, then 3. 3 sets of little needs stacked on top of a newborn. My husband suddenly loved saying I provide. As if earning money made him exempt from everything else. He moved into the guest room so he could rest for work. That sounds reasonable until you notice what it meant. I was up all night alone, up all day alone, and then expected to be cheerful in the evening while he complained that I seemed distant. By the end of the first month after birth, my life was a loop. Diapers. Feeding. School drop-offs. Laundry. Trying not to cry in the bathroom while I could hear the baby screaming. Leaking through my shirt like my own body was mocking me. My husband came home, looked at the messy living room, and sighed like he had walked into a disaster zone. Then he made comments about how I used to be so organized, as if that was motivation instead of an insult. His favorite trick was acting like my exhaustion was an attitude problem. If I looked tired, he said I was negative. If I asked for help, he said I was nagging. If I shut down, he said I was cold. Nothing I did was right. The story was always that I was the reason he felt unhappy. I noticed how convenient that story was. It required him to change nothing. His mother did not help. She had a slow, picky dislike for me that hid behind concern. When I was pregnant, she told me to make sure I took care of my husband too, in a sweet voice, like she was sharing a helpful recipe. After the baby arrived, she started saying men need attention. She said it right in front of him like she was cheering him on. One day she looked at my postpartum belly and said I should make sure I did not let myself go. Then she laughed like it was harmless. My husband laughed too. I stood there holding the baby, feeling that familiar sting of being ganged up on in my own life. Money became another quiet weapon. He never called it control. He called it being responsible. Being responsible meant I had to justify spending on anything, even things for the kids, while he spent freely when it benefited him. If I bought groceries, he studied the receipt like a detective. Why did I pick one cereal instead of another? Why did I buy extra fruit? Why did I buy wipes that were not the cheapest? As if wipes were luxury. As if my sanity was worthless. If he went out with friends, it was stress relief, networking, and he deserved a break. I kept telling myself it was just a hard season. New baby. Stress. Hormones. People say marriage is hard. People say postpartum is hard. People say men need time to adjust. I swallowed so much my throat felt raw. When the baby was barely a month old, he announced he was going away for a bachelor weekend. Several days out of town. Just the guys, he said, like that should comfort me. It was his college best friend getting married, a trip planned before the pregnancy. That did not make it less absurd. I looked at him and something inside me went quiet. My first thought was that he could not hold the baby for 10 minutes so I could shower, but somehow he had days to go pretend he was young and carefree. My second thought was that if I said no, he would punish me for it, and I was already barely holding on. So I did not fight. I did not have the energy for an argument that ended with slammed doors and him calling me controlling. I asked calmly if he was sure this was the best time. He rolled his eyes and told me it was never a good time with me. He packed like a teenager going on spring break, light and bouncy in a way I had not seen in months. That alone made me furious, because it showed me the heavy life we built was only sitting on my shoulders. He joked with the kids, kissed them, told them to listen to me, like he was doing me a favor by reminding them I existed. Right before he left, I asked him to take the baby for a couple of hours so I could sleep. Not a vacation. Just sleep that lasted longer than a short broken stretch. He looked at me like I asked him to solve a complicated problem and said he had to pack. Then he said I could nap when the baby naps. One of those phrases people say when they have never tried it. Because sure, I could nap when the baby naps, and I could also do laundry when the baby does laundry, and pay bills when the baby pays bills. I handed him the baby anyway. The baby fussed. My husband bounced him awkwardly. Within minutes, he tried to hand him back. I said no, figure it out. He got irritated, like expecting him to parent was an insult. He lasted a few more minutes, then set the baby down and muttered that this was why he needed a break. Like the baby crying was my fault. He drove off smiling. I stood in the doorway with my oldest tugging my shirt, my middle child asking about dinner, and my youngest already asking my mom, who had come to help, for a snack. I felt rage and grief so strong my eyes burned. He got to leave and be fun. I stayed here doing the same exhausting loop. Except now he could tell himself he was recharging while I slowly disappeared. The first day he was gone was chaos as usual. Breakfast. School things. Baby things. Cleaning. Someone spilled something sticky. I wiped it up while holding a screaming newborn. That night I collapsed into bed like my body had been unplugged. I slept in short pieces. Wake to feed the baby. Wake because my mind would not stop replaying resentments. Wake to check on the kids like I was a security guard. On the second night, an unfamiliar number lit up my phone after midnight. My stomach dropped while the baby squirmed on my chest. Nobody calls a postpartum woman after midnight to share something cute. I answered in a whisper, expecting an emergency. A man I did not know said my husband's name first, like he was checking he had the right person. Then he introduced himself as one of the groomsmen. He apologized for waking me. His voice sounded shaky, like he was bracing for impact. I sat up fast. My heart slammed. I asked if my husband was okay. Even when you are furious, that is where your mind goes first. The man said he was fine, but he was being stupid. He explained they had been drinking all day. They went to a club. My husband met a woman and it happened fast, like my husband had been waiting for permission. The woman invited him back to her hotel room, and he did not hesitate. He announced it to the group like it was a plan. Some of the guys laughed and cheered like they were watching a game. Then the man told me something that made my stomach twist. My husband had been telling everyone that I did not want him anymore anyway. That sentence hit like ice water. Not only because it was cruel, but because it sounded familiar. It was the same story he pushed at home, like my healing body was a punishment aimed at him. The man said he tried to stop him. He told my husband his wife just had a baby. My husband shrugged and said he deserved a night. The man sounded disgusted and ashamed. He said he took a photo because he knew my husband would deny it later. He said he did not want me to think he was making it up. Then he sent the photo. When it came through, my body went cold. My husband stood in a crowded club pressed against a woman like nothing else mattered. His hands were placed in a way that was far too intimate for a married man with children. They were smiling at each other like they were the only two people alive. I stared at it and felt something split inside me. One part wanted to scream. The other part started making lists. I opened our bank account on my phone and scanned transactions like my life depended on it. Charges from bars and restaurants and expensive-sounding places. He was spending money like he was free. Like I was not at home counting pennies while he studied grocery receipts. He could throw money at fun. But if I bought diapers without permission, it would have been a lecture. The baby started crying again. I held him and stared at the photo and thought, you have no idea what kind of mess you were born into. Then I got angry at myself for thinking that. The baby was not the mess. The mess was my husband. The baby was born into me, and I could still be solid. That promise rose up quietly inside me. Not dramatic. Just survival. After the call, I tried to phone my husband. Straight to voicemail. Again. Each ignored call felt like another confirmation. He was not just making a mistake. He was choosing to be unreachable. Choosing to be irresponsible. Choosing a stranger over his family. My mind jumped to worst-case scenarios. Not because I was dramatic, but because that is what happens when you realize you are alone. What if the baby got a fever? What if one of the kids got sick? What if there was an emergency? He was unavailable by choice. I did not sleep. I paced the hallway with the baby. I checked on the kids. I stared at the photo until it blurred. My brain turned pain into a checklist. Where are the documents? What money can I access? What can I pack quickly? Can my parents take us? If he comes home angry, do I have a safe plan? I hated how practical I became in the middle of heartbreak, but it kept me from collapsing. The next day, around midday, my husband finally called. His voice was too cheerful, too casual, like he was calling to talk about food. He said he saw my missed calls and asked if everything was okay. I did not tell him I knew. Not yet. I wanted to hear him lie with confidence. I asked where he was the night before. He did not pause. He said they stayed at the hotel bar, had a few drinks, and he crashed early. He said he was out cold. The ease of the lie made my stomach turn. He sounded relaxed, like a man who had lied before and gotten away with it. He returned the next evening acting like nothing happened. He hugged the kids. He kissed the baby. He gave me a half smile like we were fine. Then he looked at the messy living room and commented that it must have been a rough weekend, like I had been relaxing. I told him I knew he went to a hotel with a woman. His face flickered with panic for a moment, then smoothed out. He laughed like I was ridiculous. He said no, he did not, and told me not to lie. My voice shook, which annoyed me because I wanted to be calm and icy. He leaned back and crossed his arms and said I was paranoid. Then he used the old tricks. He called me unstable, irrational. He suggested postpartum was messing with my head. He spoke in a concerned tone like a caring husband, not a man trying to erase his own behavior. For a second, my exhausted brain did the horrible thing and wondered if he was right. Postpartum can make you doubt everything. Then I remembered the photo. The groomsman's voice. My husband telling people I did not want him anyway. Something hardened inside me. I showed him the photo. His face went pale. Then he scoffed and claimed it was just dancing. He said I was making a big deal out of nothing. I told him to give me his phone. He laughed and refused, saying his phone was private. Private. That word made my blood boil. My life, my body, my trust had been treated like public property, but his messages were sacred. I told him I was leaving. He stepped toward the doorway like he could block me. He said I could not take the kids. I looked at him and said he could barely hold the baby for 10 minutes without complaining, so he was not going to scare me with threats about parenting. I packed on pure adrenaline. Clothes, diapers, wipes, school things, anything I could grab fast. The kids were confused, asking where we were going. I kept my voice steady because I did not want them to feel the blast of my world falling apart, even though it was happening. I loaded the car while he ranted that I was overreacting. He kept saying I was ruining our family, like I was the one who brought a stranger into it. I drove to my parents' house without calling first. I did not trust myself to speak without breaking. When I pulled into their driveway, my hands shook so hard I could barely turn the car off. My mom opened the door and saw my face and went still. She asked what happened, fear in her voice. I told them everything. The photo. The lies. The way he tried to make me feel crazy. My dad's jaw tightened. My mom cried quietly and hugged the kids like she could shield them from the story. They did not lecture me. They did not ask why I stayed. They simply made space. That first night, my mom took the baby so I could shower. I stood under the water and cried like my body was draining months of stress. It was not a pretty cry. It was loud and ugly and humiliating. When I came out, my mom handed me a towel and told me they had me. I fell apart again, because it had been so long since anyone offered support without conditions. The next morning I woke in my childhood room and for a moment forgot everything. Then my phone buzzed and reality crashed back. My husband sent a flood of messages, swinging from anger to begging and back again. Come home. You are crazy. We can fix this. You are ruining the kids. His mother called too. I did not answer. She left a voicemail about how a good wife does not abandon her husband. I sat there holding my newborn, staring at the wall, thinking a good husband does not climb into a stranger's hotel room and then tell his wife she is imagining it. Living at my parents' house was relief and also emotional whiplash. I felt like a daughter again, not just a wife. I did not like that feeling because I had spent years trying to be independent. My mom was supportive, but she cared about appearances in that quiet way that still carries pressure. A few days in, she suggested counseling, careful and gentle. I snapped that counseling does not undo what he did. My mom sighed and said she was not defending him. She just did not want me making decisions while raw. I wanted to scream that I was not raw. I was awake. Instead I swallowed it, because she meant well, and because I was raw. I was just hiding it. A couple of days later, I realized I still needed things from the house. Practical things. Documents. Insurance papers. Work papers. And I needed to make sure he could not drain the accounts out of spite. My dad came with me, because I hated needing backup, but I was not foolish. Pulling into that driveway felt like walking toward a building that had burned down, even though it looked normal from the outside. Same porch. Same door. Same lawn. But my chest tightened as soon as I stepped out. My husband was inside. He followed me around like a shadow while I gathered things. When I went for the folder with important documents, the drawer was empty. He gave me a smug look and claimed he did not know what I meant. That was when it hit me. He was not just sorry. He was vindictive. He wanted leverage. He wanted me afraid. Soon after, I stopped hoping he would suddenly grow a conscience. I called the non-emergency line because I needed a neutral witness. He had been dodging requests, hiding papers, acting like I was trespassing in my own life. When the officer arrived, my husband opened the door with a polite, calm voice he never used with me in private. He acted reasonable and concerned, saying he only wanted what was best for the children. I watched the officer nod, and I understood something ugly and useful. My husband could be charming on demand. I did not waste energy trying to describe the version of him that lived behind closed doors. I pointed to the empty drawer, listed the times I asked for the folder, and let silence do the accusing. The officer wrote notes. I grabbed what I could and left with shaking hands. Not from fear. From the sick feeling of how easily he could look innocent. After that, my dad called him and demanded the truth. My husband, who lied to me so smoothly, suddenly got smaller. He sent voice messages admitting he slept with her. He blamed alcohol. He blamed friends. He claimed it was once. But it was a confession, recorded in his own voice. I listened in my parents' kitchen while my mom rocked the baby. I felt validated and disgusted at the same time, because being right did not feel like winning. Then my husband begged. Calls. Texts. Voice notes. He said sorry. He said think of the kids. He said it was a mistake. He hinted it happened because he felt neglected. He pushed couples therapy like it was a quick fix. What made me angriest was what he never said. He never fully faced the timing. He never truly named that I was healing. He never admitted that convincing me I was crazy was its own cruelty. It was all about him wanting his life back. I will admit something hard. There were moments I almost went back. Not because he deserved it. Because I was afraid. Afraid of being alone. Afraid of money. Afraid of 2 homes. Afraid of judgment. Afraid of how exhausting single motherhood can be. Late at night, when the baby would not sleep and the older kids had been emotional all day, I would think maybe I could swallow this and live with good enough. Then I would remember his calm voice telling me I imagined things. The way he tried to rewrite reality. My stomach would twist, and the fantasy of going back would rot in my hands. I agreed to meet him once in a neutral place, because I needed to look him in the face and say no with my full body, not just through a phone. We met in a simple coffee shop. He arrived early like he wanted credit for being responsible. He wore a sad expression and started with apologies. Then, almost immediately, he tried to split the blame. He said things had not been good between us for a while. There it was. The hook. I told him things were not good because I was drowning and he was treating sex like a bill I owed. He winced like I was being cruel. He said he felt rejected. I said I felt abandoned. I felt like a single mom while married, and then he chose to act single for real. He started explaining it was the guys, the drinking, one stupid night. I cut him off. I told him he did not trip into a hotel room. He did not accidentally tell people I did not want him. He did not accidentally try to convince me I was hallucinating. He expected me to soften. I did not. He offered therapy, promises, new behavior. It all sounded like a performance meant to erase consequences, not a real change built slowly. Then he said if I came back, we could put it behind us. Something snapped in me. He wanted forgiveness like a reset button. He wanted comfort, not accountability. I told him he did not get to erase his choices just because he was tired of the results. He accused me of punishing him forever. I told him I was protecting myself. He leaned forward and said he needed me. The way he said it was not love. It was dependency. Like he realized the house and kids did not run by magic. I stood up and told him if he wanted to be better, he could be better for the kids, not as a way to pull me back in. Then I left. I cried in my car in the parking lot. Not because I missed him, but because I was mourning the life I thought I had. Not long after that, he called with news that made my skin go cold. He told me he had a sexually transmitted infection and I needed testing right away. He delivered it like a boring task, like reminding me to renew something, not like he had risked my health after betraying me. My mind went straight to my baby, to breastfeeding, to the fear of what his selfishness could have placed on my body. I called my doctor, begged for the soonest appointment, and sat in the exam room feeling like my chest was full of bees. The doctor explained what I later learned again and again. Timing is not always neat. Some infections do not follow a tidy calendar. You cannot always point to one night and say that is when it happened. Waiting for results was its own kind of torture. I still packed lunches and wiped counters while panic screamed in the background. My results came back negative. I cried from relief, then cried from rage, because I realized that if I had not discovered the cheating, he would have kept sleeping with me like nothing happened. He would have kept risking my health while acting offended if I asked questions. That was when I stopped thinking of this as only cheating. It was also disregard. It was also danger. It was also control. His family pressed harder after that, as if his diagnosis turned him into a victim. His mother said he was sick and I was abandoning him, like I was his nurse and not the woman he betrayed. Some relatives said men make mistakes, and I was breaking up a family over a slip. Someone even hinted I was partly responsible because I had not been there for him. I stared at that message and laughed, because sometimes laughter is the only thing that keeps you from screaming. I blocked numbers. I stopped answering. I told them once that communication about the children had to be in writing and had to be respectful. His mother did not stop. She started showing up, ringing my parents' bell like she owned the place, leaving voicemails about duty and marriage, arriving during kid pickups as backup for her son, trying to corner me with speeches about family values. It was relentless. Even leaving did not feel like escape. The kids asked questions in the innocent way that breaks you. Are we staying here forever? Did Dad do something bad? I told them the truth in simple pieces. Their dad made choices that hurt me. I needed space to keep everyone safe and calm. None of it was their fault. I repeated that part again and again because children blame themselves for storms they cannot control. My husband kept trying to get me alone. He asked me to come outside for a second, like I was a teenager. When I refused, he sent messages saying I was dramatic, humiliating him, ruining the kids. One night he wrote that the kids would hate me for this. That was when something in me turned into quiet disgust. Threatening a child's love is what weak people do. I opened a bank account in my own name and switched my paycheck to it. I felt guilty doing it, which is ridiculous, but that is what slow control does. It teaches you to feel guilty for breathing. I moved enough money to survive. Groceries, gas, childcare. He noticed and accused me of stealing his money. My dad told me to keep everything in writing. So I did, even when it felt cold. Sometimes cold is what keeps you from being dragged back into chaos. The practical side of postpartum kept colliding with legal survival. I sat in medical appointments answering questions about pain and bleeding and mood while my phone buzzed with people demanding I fix their discomfort. A nurse asked if I felt safe at home. I said yes. But the truth was home had become an idea, not a place. I was rebuilding it in a spare bedroom. My husband tried apology theater. He showed up with baby supplies and a sad face like he was auditioning for Devoted Father. He asked to come inside. My mom wanted to be polite. I had to stop her. No, not inside. He looked shocked that he could not walk through the door and claim the story again. He kept saying it was a mistake. I kept thinking that mistake was too small a word. His choices were deliberate. His lies were deliberate. His attempt to erase reality was deliberate. I also realized how much he relied on me to manage him. When he felt embarrassed, he needed me to soothe him. When he felt guilty, he needed me to reassure him. When he felt angry, he needed me to calm him down so he could pretend he was not out of control. Without me doing that work, he did not know where to put himself. So he kept trying to push his way back in. The kids saw more than we wanted. One day my oldest asked if I was going to be okay. I had to look away so they would not see my face, because hearing your child carry your worry feels like failure, even when you are making the safest choice. I built routines like they were my religion. Same breakfast flow. Same school prep. Same quiet time after dinner. Baths. Stories. Baby schedule. Routines told the kids their world was changing, but it was not collapsing. My husband hated routines because routines expose inconsistency. He showed up late. Promised fun. Cancelled later. The kids' faces fell, and my anger shifted into something sharper. Cheating broke my heart. Breaking the kids' safety broke something sacred. I contacted a lawyer because I needed reality and paperwork. I needed rules that did not bend to his mood. Once the divorce process started, he swung between sweet and hostile. Sweet one day, cruel the next. Like mood swings were a negotiation strategy. I stopped trying to decode it. I started trying to document it. My lawyer was blunt. Do not try to win emotionally, win legally. Keep things simple. Do not argue in circles. I did not become perfectly calm. I cried in my car. I typed messages and deleted them. I spiraled at night rereading texts like I was searching for a way to make it feel less humiliating. But slowly, I stopped chasing emotional closure from someone who benefited from keeping me confused. The process dragged. Meetings in bland offices. Conversations that were really performances. My husband acted calm in public. Concerned. Reasonable. The mask he could put on whenever he had an audience. In rooms with rules, his tricks worked less. A mediator asked for specific examples when he tried to call me unstable. He had none that held up under normal questions. Tired and hurt are not crimes. Postpartum is not madness. And a photo from a club does not vanish just because a man speaks gently. Eventually, the discussions became schedules and logistics. Parenting time. Support. Communication rules. I learned to keep exchanges public. I learned to say if it is about the kids, put it in writing. I learned to give him nothing he could twist. I also learned something painful. He truly thought I would stay. He believed my exhaustion meant I had no options. He believed I was too tired to leave. He was wrong. I found a small place for the kids and me. Not fancy. Not a movie-style fresh start. Just safe. Just mine. The first night I stood inside with my baby on my shoulder and listened to the quiet. No footsteps. No slammed doors. No demands. Just the hum of appliances and my baby's steady breathing. I was not magically healed. I was not suddenly happy. But I could take a full breath without needing permission. And after months of feeling trapped inside someone else's version of reality, that breath felt like the beginning of my life coming back.